And this inspiration will not die. What's up guys, Truman here, welcome back to another video. So I still have the energy to keep making more videos. This is good, this is a very, very good sign. This is going to be totally off topic to the one that I just recorded about surviving narcissism, and it's actually going to be about a few topics that I thought about that I need to talk about now while they're on the tip of my tongue. It's the burden of male performance, what it's like working, why I don't like working with women in retail at least. And stuff along that line. And also why men men have this like unwritten rule of like physical respect. When I say that, it's like, okay, let me give an example of that, because that sounds weird. So like last week, there was a thief that came into my shop, and against my better judgment, I tried to stop him. Got in front of the door. I could have tackled him and done sorts of, I could have actually taken him down. The difference is that my foot caught on the basket and I fell down. So I was wrestling him, then my foot caught, and he just like leapt over me and left. And I shouldn't have done that. That was really, really stupid. Like, the one thing that you learn when you're working in retail is that, like, unless it's like your own store, like your own private store that like you started up with like your granddad's like savings or something like that, like, it's not worth it, because most of the products are insured, and if you get stabbed, it's on your thing. Now, the man that I was working with, a guy, he's about 40 years old. He was constantly talking about how thieves, and he's really, really annoyed about them, and how kept him recounting this time when he chased this person, blah, 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 blah. He stood there watching as I stopped the guy at the end of the shop, chased him all the way to the front of the shop, and then wrestled with him. He stood there watching. And the first thing he said after the thief left was like, "Why didn't you do this? I would have done that. Why didn't you close the door?" And it's like, well, one, the door's on the latch. Two, what the hell? And three, shut up, because like something in my brain just switched. And I realized that, like, and I just went to the back, because at that point I'd actually really, really gotten on with the guy. But something about the fact that he, as another dude, watched me basically, get like toppled over and didn't do anything to help, sort of was like, I can't stand you. As a man, I cannot stand you. You do not have my back. If shit hit the fan, you do not have my back. Now, if there was a woman behind the till, I wouldn't. It's like, who cares? I don't want her to step in. But the fact that it was a dude, and it was a 40-year-old dude, it was a dude who was talking about how I'm chasing down. I was just like, mate, I have no more respect for you. And it was like a switch that flipped. And I was actually talking to him quite interestingly about, like, it's very easy to be like, oh, look at me, I would have done, because it's like, look, the guy had his hands in his jacket, he had loads of stuff in there. I could have put one foot to his chest, and that was it. The difference is that when you have loads of other people in the store, if I kick him into someone else and they brain themselves on something else, I'm fucked. If I kick him and I injure him or break something, he can sue me. This is London. It's crazy. Like, you can, like, there was a case whereby someone broke into someone's house who had like a licensed gun. The guy shot him, and then the guy who shot him went to court and like was sued for like a ton of money. I'm not sure about what happened to the guy who broke in. He probably had to pay like a fine or something else. But like, we are living in a place where if you defend yourself, and this is why I actually don't mind a lot of the gun stuff and the laws in America, because it's like, if someone breaks into my house, I want to be able to shoot them. Especially if I've got like a family and kids. Like, I don't, and if you take away the guns like they did in Australia, crime goes up. Gun control does not work. Look at the stats in Australia after they confiscated people's guns in the last century. Crime went through the roof, and it's kept on going up. Break-ins went up, car thefts went up, general muggings went up, because a criminal's not just going to hand in his gun just because the government tells him to. No, it's the law-abiding citizens that will hand in their guns. So all this stuff in America about, oh, we need to take away guns and stuff. And even in the UK, if you look at the crime statistics, well, there's more crime than ever. And they had to and after that, they banned guns. Banning guns and gun control does not work. Disarming your populace only makes them lazy, compliant, and more willing to obey when someone else with a gun walks across and tries to threaten them. Now, giving back guns to a country, that's a whole other discussion, because it's actually quite difficult. But still, that's neither here nor there. So I was just telling them, like, look, that I will be screwed over, but that's beside the point. I couldn't stand him. And men have this sort of unwritten, like, spoken thing of, like, brothers in arms standing together to defend the fort. If I respect you as a person, and there's like a physical conversation, and you don't do anything to do that, and not only that, the first thing you say is like, oh, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And you didn't lift a finger. It's like, you're dead to me. Like, it was like this primordial switch, and people have this as well. That will also happen if you're out with a woman and you get your ass handed to you. No, not so much. If you're out with a girl that you're dating and like, I don't know, like she gets in trouble and you don't do anything, a switch flips and all of a sudden she's not answering your calls. It's like we have these primordial switches in our brain. But anyway, on to the juicy topic, which is bound to get me demonetized. Why I hate working with women in retail. Now, this is not going to be a sexist thing. This is just going to be what I've seen working in retail when it comes to working with women. And a lot of it is in this light of this whole feminism, women can do everything men can do and all this other stuff. And it's like, no, that's bullshit. Men and women are not the same. One of the main things that I found, and I actually mentioned this in a previous video, but I'll mention it again. There used to be a store that I worked at in White City. And White City. I could make a joke, but it's too tired. There's a store there. Mainly women were working there. And I tell you, some of the stuff was in boxes. It's not very hard to pick up. But if there was an item that was like 3-4 levels down on a stack of boxes that needed to be put out on the shelf, and there were women working, it would not be done. It would not be done. They would wait till a guy comes in, and then the manager would point at it and say, "Oh, hey, we need that." And I just look and I just think, I was here like 4 days ago and that hasn't been done and that shelf's been empty. And, you know, I don't say anything. I'm just like, okay. And then I'll walk away thinking, they really don't, like, okay. They spend all their time talking. All their time talking. Like, there are times when it's time for me to go and my manager is upstairs gossiping with another female colleague for ages. Just talk, yap. And I'm there by myself. And, like, I go in and I'm like, hey, like, I'm leaving. I literally just close this door. And it's like, oh, hey. And then they make up some bullshit about, didn't I tell you about that time? And my manager's a narcissist as well. That she makes up things that I haven't done. And so they will try and excuse themselves. Number 3, they don't take any damn responsibility. Now, I've worked in women in a lot of different fields. They are not the same as in retail. I do not know what is with retail, but it attracts the worst. Not all of them. I have worked with some great women in retail on my store. Some really amazing people who actually turned out to be my good friends to this day. But a lot of them, like, they don't take any responsibility. If anything happens that is their fault, and they're not caught with their hand in the jar, they'll be like, wasn't me. And it's like, it's a switch. Like, and paradoxically, what they will do is they will spend the whole time gossiping about how other women don't take responsibility as well. So I'm just standing there like, oh, she's my colleague is talking about some colleague or a manager. Oh, she doesn't do this, she doesn't do that, she doesn't do this. And I remember once I walked to the back and in the cage where you just break down stuff and, you know, put the rubbish out, there was a box that hadn't been broken down, and we have a big rule about that. You know, you don't put big boxes in there because then you just take up loads of space. And I walked up to her and I said, look, you know, why did you do that? And she's like, oh no, I mean, if it bothers you that much, why don't you do it? And it's like, you spent literally the last 2 hours bitching about our manager. And now I call you to the carpet. And she did it again as well. When she was, again, bitching about the company. And then she said something silly. And I was like, actually, that doesn't make any sense. I don't think you can do that. She literally like, okay, bye. Put the phone down. It's a nightmare. I am so annoyed with it. You know, and again, I've seen many women who work in retail who are absolutely fine. But maybe it's just my luck. But they don't take any responsibility. They gossip all the time. They don't do any of the heavy lifting. But then they turn around and if you make a single sexist remark, you can't do that. So, look, if I said, like, okay, you know, go make me some tea. See how far I would last. I would be able to hear my P45 flying through the post to my house. Like, there is no way I could do that. Yet, women find it very easy to basically get off with these basically sexist comments. Like, even customers. I've had a customer, and she was just talking about, well, you know, she had to come and pick something up for her husband, and she was like, oh, if he was here, he probably wouldn't get it. You know, men, right? And I just looked at her like, I didn't say a word. I just looked at her. And she was just like, yeah, right. And I was like, okay, that'll be fun. And I think it's cool. Imagine if you did it the other way around. You know, I have had so many women that I've been working with are outright sexist towards dudes. It's okay. It's okay to be sexist towards dudes. It's okay to make jokes about, you know, dudes and how, you know they're really good at lifting stuff, but don't give them too many tasks, right? Because they're men. And it absolutely drives me nuts. And the one last thing that I found absolutely annoying, and I probably had 3 things to talk about in this video, but, like, I've skipped that. Is that whenever there's, again, this sort of ties into this burden of, that was it, burden of performance. Men have this burden of performance whereby even though we live in a quote-unquote equal society, let me give you a good example. If the zombie apocalypse were to cut in, like, right now, we would regress to, like, the hunter-gatherer society like that. Like, all these feminists, they'd be hiding behind the biggest, burliest dude they could find. You know? And I found this in retail as well, because whenever there's a thief or something, it's always a dude who's expected to intervene. Like, I whenever I'm working with women, they will not lift a finger. They'll just like, hey, you, sort him out. Even if they're not doing anything, point at me, or they'll probably point at another dude and say, you deal with it. You deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, if I have a half-finished bacon sandwich and a chick walks in, I can't just point at the damn sandwich and say, finish it. I'd love to. I'd love to. Finish that damn sandwich with extra mayo, like, you'd be fired. And this is why I don't tell people at work my YouTube channel. Like, men have this burden of performance, and I'm not like those people on the MGTOW side. It's like, oh, that it sucks, or, you know, it's a bad thing, and, you know, this, that, and the other, because you can use that to your advantage. This is why I think men really have the best end of the stick, because, like, they mature into their sexual prime around about 35, and that not just physically but also financially. And what you'll find is that a man who is not red-pilled, so to speak, is still plugged into the matrix. He will give away all of his power to a woman who hasn't worked a day in her life. And that may be okay. Maybe he goes on to the future, but he forgets that he has all the power. And we know what happens if that goes wrong. So men have a burden of performance, and that's fine. The only problem is that we live in a society that basically says that, like, men and women are the same. That men and women have an equal burden of performance. And I remember there was a good video about there was a woman who dressed up as a man and decided to go on a dating thing. Just YouTube it. It's a fascinating video. You know, women dresses up as a man to see what it's like. And she literally is like, by the end of it, she's like, she could never imagine just how much stress and you have to be always on men are when it comes to the dating world, when it comes to the expectations and the expectations that she was put under, the unspoken expectations that all men have that women are never put under. It blew her mind. And I remember after I watched that, I was like, yeah. You think it's all okay? We just have to, you know, it's easy being a dude. No, that's far more stressful and unique expectations that dudes have, that in our society we don't really appreciate that. So this is one of the reasons why, if you work with women in retail, I maybe that damn sandwich. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's what I'm gonna say for today. And just to clarify, like I said, like, I've worked with many great women in retail and in other jobs. Like, I've worked in them when I was working at a solicitor's agency. Fantastic. You know, fantastic. But something about retail just brings out the worst in women, and I do not know what it is. Anyway, freeman out, and peace.